Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the Corvette. I know, another Corvette video, but we're getting through these things. Today we're going to be working on the car and adding a couple parts to it. Now, this set of mods is something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. All of my other vehicles have it, except for the Corvette. And you guys might be wondering what that is. Well, what I picked up was a backup camera and nav screen integration kit from a company called NavTool. Now the backup camera, I don't have it yet, it's still being shipped, but we can at least get started on this project by getting the navigation radio out of the car and working on taking the radio apart. And basically what we're doing, we're going to be adding a intercept ribbon cable, video cable, going from the touchscreen nav, the part that slides out, to adding a RCA video source into that. This is pretty much the same kit that I had on my truck, but that company, Pacific Audio Corporation, stopped making that particular kit for the truck. I think they must have sold their design, or another company just bought, is building that same old kit. I think you can buy the kit that I'm buying for the Corvette, that I bought for the Corvette, for the truck. I'll have to look that up and let you guys know. But I know if you guys have seen my backup camera video on the truck, and I've gotten a lot of hits on that, a lot of questions, but people haven't been able to find where you can buy that kit. So this might be a good option for you truck guys out there, especially the 03 to 07 classic Duramaxes and 15 and 2500s that do the radio swap. I'll have a link to my truck video here up in the information card, and that way you guys that are interested in trucks can see that. But back to the Corvette. To get this thing started, I'm going to have to hook the battery back up and take the radio out, which I've already got the car torn apart for the transmission job. So you guys will actually have to tear apart the interior, remove the center console, the radio surround, all that stuff. But as you guys can see, my interior is already tore apart. So all I have to do is remove the 4 bolts that are holding in the radio, and we'll be able to get that navigation radio removed. The one thing you guys do have to do before you remove the radio out of the car is actually open the CD part. Press the button on the bottom of the screen, and the screen will rotate out and down. The radio has to be open, so you can take it apart. If you leave it closed, you can't take it apart. You might be able to force it open, but I just don't know. I'm not sure what would happen if you try to take it apart with it fully, closed. So leave it open. And to do that, guys, just reconnect the battery in the car, hit the eject button, disconnect the battery, and it should be no power to the car. Remove the battery cable, and the radio should stay open. Since there's no power, there's no way that could possibly move, unless there's some backup battery, but highly doubt it. So, alright guys, as you can see, I have power back on the car. We're going to hit the eject button. And this is where we're going to turn the car back off. Actually, we're just going to pull the power cable. And you guys can see there's 4 7mm bolts on the back here. Pull the bolts out. There's going to be 3 antennas. Radio, GPS, and the car speaker setup. Pull those 3 plugs out the back. Actually, there may be 4, depending on the year of the car. Some of the cars had a USB input on the back as well. My radio is out of an 09, I believe. It does not have that option. I think like 10, maybe 11 and newer of the C6 had the USB input. Alright guys, now that we've gotten the radio out of the car, I'm going to kind of go over the steps on how to take apart the radio. I have the PDF on my computer right here. Just follow the instructions. This isn't going to be super complex, but basically we're going to take the radio apart, following the instructions, and adding, there's a ribbon cable in here, as well as this little circuit board that will go inside of the radio. Okay guys, at this point I have removed the top cover. There's 4 or 5 screws holding that on. Remove that, but I also removed the screws and the little washer on the side of the radio. This goes in right here. They call it a barrel. I don't really know what to call it, but remove that on both sides. Now the instructions are to push the rail back inside the radio. Alright, so I push that back down in. This exposes the ribbon cable, and this is where the circuit board and the ribbon video input's going to come to play. Alright guys, you will see that the instructions tell you to pull down on the brown lock behind the ribbon. This is on the back of the screen right here. But actually guys, the instructions are kind of wrong. What you want to do is actually push up. Because if you guys can see right here, if you push up, this whole brown lock is actually on a hinge. So by pushing up on the end of it, you actually open it. By opening it, it flips upward. So it flips up like that, and that loosens up the ribbon. And then what you're going to do is pull the ribbon out, and you're able to take out the radio screen now. Alright guys, next step is going to be to lift up this end of the cable, of the ribbon cable right here. It's got that same kind of lip and lift upward, so you're gonna put your screwdriver in and push up, and then you're able to pull the cable out. So the instructions say open the brown and release tab, do not use force, slide the ribbon cable forward. Yeah, it doesn't really give you a ton of information. Alright guys, I got the front of the radio off, but what they don't really indicate is that there's actually a secondary ribbon cable here. You guys can see it on the back of the radio face right here. I didn't see that until I actually started taking this off, and there's a secondary cable right here that you actually have to press. There's these brown tabs on both ends of the cable. Pull them toward you. Get your screwdriver back behind there and use a flat blade and push it toward you. Just go real lightly. You don't need to do anything super heavy, and it'll pull towards you. You take off these 3 bolts. There's 3 bolts here, 3 bolts here. When you take this off, there's a ground cable that you need to swing the radio face up and out of the way to get around. It's shown here on the instructions that you gotta take the radio face and swing it up and over. So nothing super complex there. Alright guys, as you can see, I tore this down further than the instructions tell you. But what I needed to do, I needed to get a screw out of this hole right here. But what was happening was the front cage, this part, and this part were both in the way of getting a screwdriver down into the screw. And actually, it was actually pretty tight. I had attempted to get a screwdriver in there at an angle, but as you guys can see, I'm not sure if it'll focus on that, but the screw got a little stripped out. So I just ended up taking the rest of the cage off, just all these little bolts. There's like 6, 3 on each side, and then 4 more on the fronts of the CD drives, these disc drives, and it wasn't super hard. So I got that thing out, and now what I need to do is actually pull this metal tab down. Alright guys, I skipped ahead a little bit, but basically what you're going to do is put the long, thin circuit board ribbon, pull it through the radio, and there's a slot in the back. Pull it through the radio, plug it into the little circuit board. You're going to have a white little interface jumper harness from the main radio to the little circuit board. Plug that in, and then this is the end that we had pulled out of the circuit board and the back of the screen. And then what you're going to do is, you can see the board still sitting halfway out. You're going to push up on the board and pull it in, pull back on this cable very lightly, and that will get the board into the radio. Alright guys, I got the board pushed all the way in. All I had to do was actually push up on this bottom ribbon a little bit and push it, like feed it underneath this cable right here, push that into the radio, and that was able to give me enough slack to push the board all the way in. Alright guys, I got the radio kind of put back together. Still have to plug the screen and the front display. Need to plug that in, but the hardest part I found on this swap so far has actually been getting that small secondary cable plugged back in. I had to take the face off several times, get everything lined up, but the trick is that I found, get the copper ground strap through the hole in this corner, and then push this through the bottom, this cable, then this other cable, feed it through, and then push on the silver cable right here. You guys can kind of see it. Push that in, make sure it's locked in, and then press the 2 brown tabs on each side of this cable in, and that'll lock it in place, and everything should be good to go. Alright guys, we got the display attached. You just gotta put the fitting on the side, the little metal barrel, and then the screw, put that in. Attach the screen on the bottom. Make sure you guys feed the screen back behind this white plastic piece, and then it goes up and into the ribbon holder on the display. Push the lock in and you should be good. Put the metal barrel and screw on this side. Alright guys, that's the radio fully assembled, and as you guys can see out the back, we gained an extra ribbon cable coming out the back. Now the instructions actually said to tape this ribbon cable to the back of the radio, so I still have to do that, but basically how this setup's going to work is with an interrupter, that jumper ribbon that we put in between the screen and the radio, that comes through the radio, through this connection to this harness. Then this harness plugs into the NavTool box. So, and then you've got the ribbon cable coming to this wire harness. This wire harness has 2 RCA inputs, one for the camera 1, one for the camera 2. Camera 1 will be your primary, so you're going to want to plug camera 1 into your backup camera. Camera 2 will be if you guys want to add a front view camera. And then coming out of the NavTool box in this harness, there are 5 wires. Black is going to be your ground. Red is going to be your power, your accessory 12, basically your switch 12 volt. So when you turn the car on, it activates, so it'll be red. And then yellow will be going to your switch. That way if you guys add a switch to your center console, you can turn on the front camera. And orange will be going to the reverse light. The reverse light, there's a fuse in the passenger well, full well compartment on the fuse box, and then you're going to tie that into there. We'll do the wiring later, but that's going to be pretty much it for the NavTool radio modification part of this install. And then you're going to have your RCA. I've got like 30 feet of it. Your RCA that'll plug into camera 1, like I was saying, and then camera 1 will go to the back of the car. And on the camera side, I don't have it with me just yet, but the camera, you're going to have a few wires in the RCA, and your power source will be coming from the reverse light, and then your ground, you'll just ground it to the back of the car. So that's it for the radio portion. We'll move on to the backup camera next.